Okay, this week it's time to introduce the new game Dagger from Critical Role. Now, Critical Role is famous for pretty much playing D&D on and you can catch them on like YouTube or whatever. So Matt Mercer's the DM, and he has his group and everything, and they're the ones that basically created this. So this is like in a sense, a new take on the TTRPGs and everything. So as you can see, this is what you're getting in here. This is like the introduction. And what's cool about this is it's pretty much an all-in-one. You get the instance a player's handbook, a DM guide, and a monster manual all in this. So it's basically just one big core rulebook, and you don't need to get three and everything. So that's what's cool about this. So it breaks it down into like a first part is like a preparing for adventure. You got your venturing classes. Chapter 2 is playing adventure, so you're kind of getting into now like later chapters in for the DM, and then you got as you can see here, chapter 3 running and adventure, adversaries and environments, campaign frames and appendixes and everything. So the introduction is like, hey, yeah, this is what it's all about and everything, and then kind of rulings over rules. Now this system uses like a D12 system instead of the D20 system that the D&D is usually used for. So for instance, you have with this game you have 2D12, one's hope, one's fear. So you kind of get both of them. So you're trying to get better hope versus less fear type of deal. But to each his own, and how you ultimately end up running. So here you can see like what you need to play, kind of like the principles. Then we get into kind of like the actual beginning in the sense of the player's handbook or the player's part. So you got like you can see here kind of like in a sense the realms that you can play are in a sense like the outer realms, like the prime material plane, and like the different planes of existence, the mortal realm, and like the heavens, the hells, and the elemental planes kind of goes into that. Then gets into the character creation here. So in essence, what you're doing is you're picking a class and basically in a subclass. So it kind of breaks down the character classes even further than well, I shouldn't say further, but kind of breaks it down that way, because in D&D, especially in the 2024 versions, you do get like subclasses at level 3. So you kind of start out with for instance, sorcerer. You either play as the elemental origin or the primal origin type of deal. So that's how it's broken down in here. You then assign your character traits, basically your abilities. You can see here, it's slightly different: agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, and knowledge. And then you can distribute your modifiers. So this is usually what you get, like a +2, +1, +1, 0, 0, and a -1. So I'm sure any DM could kind of in a sense fudge them and kind of how they want to how the type of play they want to do, as I'm stumbling over my words like usual. So it goes in a sense step by step by a character creation. It goes over the character sheet and everything, and then it says the domains for spell casting has a nice little as I had it half off screen, so I'll go back and showcase this and everything, these past few pages, as we work backwards, so you can see some of the other classes and everything. Here we go. We got the domains. Then we get domain cards. I'll actually show the cards once you get through this. So you got the class. It goes actually into each one and everything. So bard, druid, guardian, ranger, rogue, the seraph, sorcerer. As I flip even more, warrior, and wizard. And then you pick your branch of your ancestry. So in a sense, basically what race you are. So you could see here the clank, kind of like your warforged, the dracona. What comes to mind is the draconians from Dragonlance, your typical dwarf, elf, fairy, faun, furbolg, yeah, fungrill, gallipa. So you got some unique races in here as well that's brand new that you haven't seen in other stuff, but in some of the typical ones, as you can tell. Yeah, good old Kermit the Frog. it over here. And then, of course, you can do mixed ancestry, so you don't necessarily have to do just the half elf or the half orc or whatever. It gets into like the different communities, background stuff like that, where you're pretty much mainly where your character came, kind of the community your character came from. And what's kind of actually cool is that this actually gives you the ability to play characters with disabilities and everything. So like right here, you see one of the ribbits with like a missing leg. You got like the Jacona missing like a hand or whatever. So you can play characters with disabilities in this game, which in other iterations like D&D and even Pathfinder, you kind of have to kind of do a little more legwork to be able to do something like that and everything. So as we go through, we get into actual combat and resolving issues and kind of dice rolling and stuff like that, and how you go about resolving issues. Like, hey, yeah, I want to do persuade, like the typical board, I want to do a seduction on the dragon and everything. So, or like the barbarian, I want to rage and attack, and I roll for attack type of deal. And as I'm doing this as I'm kind of overcoming a cold right now, so if I kind of sound kind of stuffy and everything, that's kind of why. But I'm still going over this and everything so people can have an idea of what they're getting in and everything before they get it. Now we get into the actual equipment that you can buy, and so they have different tiers for weapons. So in a sense, instead of a simple martial and exotic weapons, you got tiers instead, as you can see here, tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Getting back to disabilities and everything, so you can have characters that are wheelchair bound in here, so it actually gives you stuff that you can be able to work around and stuff. And here, as you can see, you got the secondary weapons, so get into dual wielding. The most famous dual wielder is Drizzt and his 2 scimitars. You get into now treasure, loot, and stuff. Gives a good example on the flow of play, and okay, so it gives you a basic idea of okay, so this is how it goes. And then here we're now starting to really get into the dungeon master or the game master content and everything for running an adventure and running campaigns and stuff like that. And so this, like I said, this is pretty much an all-in-one book and everything. So you can, instead of wasting $150 on 3 core rule books, you're probably only going to be spending a fraction of that just to play this game and everything. So now, as of this recording, my group and I, we just finished up our Star Wars campaign. So I'm kind of thinking see maybe we can get into this. So I'll have to kind of bounce the idea off them and everything. So as I'm kind of rambling, going off on a tangent, flipping through these pages, just to kind of fill the silence and everything. So then you can see here running sessions. Now we get into running campaigns that's kind of long. So this is like I said, kind of 2/3 of the book is pretty much for DMs. So now, and then the first third is pretty much for player characters and both GMs. So we get into basically the big bad evil guys, the adversaries, or permanent foes that you're going to be throwing up against your PCs. And so then pretty soon you can see in in a sense the monster manual. So you can see kind of each section's a little color coded too as well, so you can kind of quickly find them and stuff. So speaking of the monster manual, kind of here we go, gives you stat blocks and a bunch of different monsters. And so what you can do is use kind of stat blocks to be able to create your own monsters too. So it's not too hard for you to take the template and be able to do that and everything with this stuff. So kind of flipping through this kind of relatively quickly, because I kind of want to get through this so that way people aren't here all day. You're oh god, this is taking forever. But as you can see, I'm going to reiterate, this is basically an all-in-one book, and you don't need 3 books and everything. So now we're getting into the campaign frames. So I said, pretty much most of this section is for the DMs, but like player characters could quite possibly get into this, so that way they have a better grasp of the game, so that way they can help move it along, or like be able to like help resolve any issues. So now here we're getting into like different like instance campaign settings or whatever that you can use. So like these are like actual adventures in like campaign settings, so kind of go through these relatively quickly, because like we pretty soon we'll be coming to maps and everything. So like I said, these are different settings and like ideas for adventures that you can use in different settings. So it gives you several different settings to use, and not just like oh hey, let's just do Forgotten Realms, or let's just do Greyhawk or something. This already gives you several pre-made campaign settings, so like you don't necessarily have to buy source books on Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, like I said. So it reduces it down even further when you consider like, oh man, I'm gonna have to buy like the Adventurer's Guide to the Sword Coast adventure book to on top of like the three core rule books, and then maybe like I throw in like Tasha's Cauldron and everything, Xanathar's Guide to everything, so that you can see how source books can get kind of expensive versus just this one book and everything. So, but of course, the downside is with one book, to make it shorter, you can't necessarily fit as much in like you could in all those other source books. But with the way things are nowadays, this could definitely be a cheaper, better way to actually like get introduced to TTRPG and everything. So as we're going through like a different like spell domains right there, and here in the back we actually have like a blank character sheet that you could instant scan and print off at like your local library. Yeah, it's like the different parts of it. Gets the guide for character creation, play guide, what you can do in your downtime. Gives you like a tier of like what levels you are. Level 1's tier 1, 2 to 4 tier 2, 5 to 7 tier 3, 8 to 10 tier 4. Gives you even more in a sense reference guides for the DM and everything, and for like beast form for the Jews, as you can see. And it gives you like modules for like the different ones. And so now we actually get into like the actual maps and everything, so I kind of have to turn this sideways, and we get the different maps. And so like I kind of have to like shift it back and forth. So like right here we can see we have the map for like the Witherwild, and now we have to switch it back around and flip for the 5 banners. Now we have to flip like this for Beast Fest. So those since campaigns that we saw earlier, these are the actual maps. So like here we actually have the Age of Umbra, and then the Motherboard, and our last one is the Colossus of the Dryland, and then we finish it off with the Index to be able to find stuff. And you got these nifty little like page markers that you can use. So that's the actual book, and now we bring out the actual cards that you can actually use with this game. So as you can see in that nice little trays and everything, so we got spells that you can get, abilities. So there's one stack. I'm only going to kind of flip through these relatively quickly and everything, so people can get like, at least a general idea. So we got like a class abilities and everything, and like they're color coordinated too. So like for instance, like here for the warrior, for the druid, for the wizard. So those are like kind of like class abilities, as I'm making a mess of it. Yeah, so go through each one, and we got like even more abilities, and like they're like levels. You can like 3, 6, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. So each stack is kind of like that and everything. So we got more of those that from the previous pile, kind of for wishing through these spells, so you have like quick reference and everything. So yeah, let's see, 2 more piles to kind of go through real quick. So we got more spells, more abilities. It seems like they got abilities and spells mixed together with that pile. But anyway, like you pretty much would have it all together. So like you kind of mix and match or whatever. So you got like different races that you can play as. Yeah, like different like areas where you are from. Different types of like ideas and stuff. So that's pretty much the cards and everything. So this is the introduction to the good old Dagger Heart. So like I said, as of this recording, my group and I just finished up our Star Wars campaign. So I'm gonna see if like a group is willing to get into this. Chances are we'll probably have to put it on like the back burner for, at least for now. But if you're looking to get into something that's like if you're sick and tired of the usual D&D or Pathfinder, here's good old Dagger Heart to get into. So it's just like another thing that we can try. And like what's nice about my group and I is we've been bouncing around with campaigns. So like I said, we just finished up our Star Wars campaign. We had started with a D&D campaign, and we did like a Call of Cthulhu and a Cyberpunk, and now just recently our Star Wars. So that's what's cool about bouncing around is you get to try different ones. So like if you're looking for groups, don't hesitate to jump in and try Daggerheart, because it might well be something that you'll find out that could be your go-to TTRPG going forward.